I never thought my own kindness would become the weapon that destroyed me, until I found my husband and my best friend tangled in our sheets. People say you should never trust your happiness, that life always has a way of throwing curveballs just when you feel most secure. If you'd asked me a year ago, I'd have laughed that off. My name is Madison Bell. I'm 35, a marketing director for a growing skincare brand in Chicago, with a schedule so packed that downtime meant scrolling through Instagram with one hand while answering Slack messages with the other. I always thought my ability to juggle chaos was my superpower. My boss called me the woman who makes impossible things happen. But looking back now, I wonder if my constant busyness was just a way to avoid looking too closely at my own life. I grew up in the Chicago suburbs, youngest of three. My parents had a hard marriage, dad was always working late, mom was always a little sad. I promised myself early that I'd never settle for lukewarm love. In college, I was that overachiever who organized every group project, who knew the name of every bartender within 5 blocks, who scheduled wine and wine nights to keep my little friend group together through finals and breakups. That's where I met Olivia. Olivia Kim burst into my life like a summer storm. She was a transfer student from California, brilliant, effortlessly beautiful, with a wicked sense of humor and a knack for drawing people out of their shells. She showed me how to be bold. We lived together junior and senior year, swapping secrets late at night, laughing until we cried about bad dates, cheap wine, our impossible dreams. After graduation, we both ended up in Chicago, me climbing the corporate ladder, Olivia bouncing between fashion gigs and design projects, always chasing something just out of reach. Through it all, we stayed close. She was at my side when I landed my first real job, when my dad died, when I impulsively adopted Peanut, my scrappy little rescue dog with the world's worst haircut. Then there was Derek. We met at a tech networking event. He was 6'2", with sandy hair, quick wit, and a smile that made you feel like you were the only person in the room. He worked in IT consulting, but it was his charm, not his resume, that won me over. Our first date lasted until 3 in the morning. He sent flowers to my office the next day, handwritten notes tucked into my purse on weekends. He was everything my mother said a husband should be. Reliable, attentive, ambitious, never forgetting anniversaries or birthdays. When he proposed to me in Millennium Park, under a sky full of fireworks, Olivia was there to take pictures, shrieking with happiness. We bought a modern condo together, all floor-to-ceiling windows and crisp white walls. My life felt like one of those Instagram feeds: yoga classes, brunches, work events, book clubs, romantic weekends away. And always Olivia, my platonic soulmate, right in the mix, joining us for movie nights, showing up with ice cream after a bad day, making Derek and me laugh when we got too serious about our jobs. There were cracks, if I'm honest. Derek worked too much. He grew restless when things were calm, always planning the next big thing, a business trip, a vacation, an investment scheme. He hated sitting still. Olivia, meanwhile, seemed to float from job to job, never quite settling, but always there for me. I missed her when she left for 6 months to do a design internship in New York. When she came back, we threw a party just to celebrate her return. Over the years, our trio became something of a joke among friends, the Three Musketeers. My mom would joke, "You and Olivia should have just married each other." But it worked. At least I thought it did. Looking back now, the red flags seem glaring. Derek texting at midnight and turning his phone face down when I walked into the room. Olivia canceling girls' nights at the last minute, always with vague excuses. The two of them sharing private jokes, sometimes falling silent when I walked in. But I was busy. I was so busy. I loved them both, so I gave them the benefit of the doubt. Isn't that what love is? Trusting the people you care about most. Then came that rainy Thursday in April. I just wrapped up a grueling product launch and had a rare evening off. I wanted to surprise Derek, so I picked up his favorite takeout on my way home, a tradition from our early days, back when money was tight and little gestures meant everything. The elevator in our building was broken, so I took the stairs, dodging the smell of fresh paint and neighbors' deliveries. I balanced the food and Peanut's leash, humming to myself, exhausted but oddly content. As I reached our floor, I heard laughter, familiar but slightly off. I paused, wondering if Derek had company. When I opened the door, the smell of Derek's cologne hit me first, then a trail of clothes, his jacket, a woman's scarf, a pair of heels I recognized as Olivia's, leading straight down the hallway. I set down the bags, confusion prickling at my skin. "Derek," I called, expecting him to appear, grinning, ready to help with dinner. Silence. Then, suddenly, a burst of laughter from our bedroom, sharp and intimate in a way that made my stomach twist. I walked down the hallway, Peanut padding behind me, and opened the bedroom door. The image is burned into my memory. Derek and Olivia, tangled in our sheets, their faces contorted with shock and terror. For a moment, time stood still. I saw Olivia's necklace, the one I'd bought her for her birthday, glinting on the nightstand. Derek's hand was on her bare back. Their eyes found mine, and all the air left the room. My mind splintered. It wasn't rage. It wasn't grief. It was a cold, numb certainty, a sense that I'd just stepped out of my own life and into someone else's nightmare. I didn't scream, I didn't cry. I just stared at them, my voice flat. "Get dressed. You have 5 minutes to leave my apartment, both of you." Olivia started to sob, babbling apologies. Derek scrambled for his jeans, face white as a sheet, hands shaking. I turned away, walked to the living room, and shut the door behind me, locking it. Peanut curled up at my feet, sensing the storm in the air. When I finally unlocked the door hours later, the apartment was empty. On the counter, a note in Derek's familiar scrawl, "Please, Madison, talk to me. I can explain." I tore it in half and dropped it in the trash. That night, I lay in bed, fully dressed, Peanut pressed to my side, replaying every memory, every laugh, every "I love you" that now felt like a knife in my heart. In that moment, something inside me shifted. I promised myself I would never let them see me fall apart. They had taken everything I valued, but they would not take my dignity. And I had no idea that the pain they caused would become my greatest source of power. The days that followed felt like living underwater. Time moved strangely. Light seemed sharper, every sound too loud, like I'd lost a layer of protection against the world. I kept to my routine as if that would anchor me. I walked Peanut by the lake at sunrise, took showers that lasted too long, made coffee I didn't drink, and answered work emails with a robotic efficiency that startled even me. No one at the office knew. I was too proud, too private. I kept up the facade of Madison Bell, marketing powerhouse, refusing to let anyone see the cracks beneath the surface. But in private, I unraveled. I would find myself standing in the kitchen, staring at the fridge without remembering how I got there. I would scroll through my phone, reading Derek's texts, "Please, just talk to me. It was a mistake. I never meant to hurt you," and Olivia's even more frantic. "I'm so sorry, Mads, I was weak. I love you, please forgive me." Their desperation made me sick, but I couldn't stop reading. I didn't reply, not a single word. I let their messages pile up, dozens and dozens. Like a wall of noise, I refused to break through. I spent hours replaying the scene in my head, analyzing every detail. How long had it been going on? Was it only physical, or had there been love? Did they laugh at me behind my back, or did they lie awake at night, hatting themselves for the secrets they shared? I started seeing my entire life in a new light, picking apart every inside joke, every business trip, every girls' night that Olivia bilaid on. I wondered how many times I'd been the punchline, in a story they told each other after I'd left the room. I didn't tell my family right away. My mom would have called, weeping, demanding that I come home. My older brother would have offered to take care of Derek, which would have made me laugh if I wasn't so numb. For the first time since I was a child, I felt completely, utterly alone. Work became my safe haven. I threw myself into a new campaign, volunteering for late nights, picking up extra tasks. My boss praised my dedication, joking that I must be on a productivity bender. In truth, I just couldn't bear to go home to an empty apartment with only Peanut and my thoughts for company. A week after the betrayal, I ran into Olivia at a coffee shop near my building. It was pure accident. She was there, hair pulled back, sunglasses on, as if hiding from the world. When she saw me, she froze, cup halfway to her lips. "Madison," she breathed, her voice breaking. "Please, please, can we just talk?" I looked at her, really looked at her for the first time since that night. She seemed smaller, diminished, nothing like the Olivia I once knew, eyes rimmed red, hands shaking. It hurt, in some small, mean way, to see her suffer. "Talk about what?" I asked, my tone icy. Tears welled in her eyes. I was stupid, selfish. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. "Derek, he said he loved me, but I never wanted to hurt you. You're my best friend, you're my family." I felt a wave of nausea. "Then why did you do it?" My voice cracked. "All these years, Liv, all those secrets we shared, all those times I trusted you with everything. Why?" She started to speak, but I cut her off. "You know what hurts the most? Not the sex, not the lies. It's the fact that you both looked me in the eyes day after day and pretended nothing was wrong. That you let me believe I was loved. That's what I can't forgive." She reached out as if to touch my arm, but I stepped back. "Please, Mads, please, I'm sorry." I shook my head. "You broke us, Olivia. There's no coming back from this." I left her standing there, sobbing into her coffee. I felt nothing. No triumph, no relief, just a numb emptiness. That night, I called a divorce lawyer. I'd been putting it off, telling myself maybe Derek would fight for us, maybe he'd try to explain, to win me back. But as I listened to his voicemails, all full of excuses and empty promises, I realized I didn't want to hear his side. I wanted to move on. The next morning, I met with Sheila Kramer, a divorce attorney known for her ruthlessness and precision. Her office overlooked the city, walls lined with law books and diplomas. She wore glasses perched on the tip of her nose and didn't waste time on pleasantries. "Tell me what you want," she said, notepad in hand. I didn't hesitate. "I want a clean break. I want what's mine, and I want him to regret ever thinking he could betray me." She smiled, a thin, dangerous smile. "We can do that." We spent hours going over paperwork, sorting out assets, investments, properties, stocks, everything Derek and I had built together. The numbers made my head spin: joint accounts, retirement funds, even a vintage car Derek had insisted on buying for fun. It was all there, all on the table. As I left her office, a strange sense of calm washed over me. For the first time in days, I felt a sliver of control. They had shattered my trust, but they hadn't destroyed my will. If Olivia wanted Derek so badly, I decided I would give her everything except my forgiveness. And as for Derek, I would make sure he learned just how expensive betrayal could be. The next few weeks felt surreal, as if I were acting in a play about someone else's life. On the outside, I was calm, methodical, even cordial, at work, in emails, at the bank, with my lawyer. On the inside, I was still reeling, every nerve ending raw and exposed. But one thing kept me going: the plan that was quietly taking shape in my mind. Sheila, my lawyer, was a master at her craft. I trusted her immediately. Her eyes were sharp, her voice low and steady, the kind that made you believe things would get better. We spent entire afternoons combing through statements, old emails, property deeds, and contracts. She had a knack for spotting patterns and inconsistencies I would never have noticed. Derek, predictably, was too distracted by Olivia, and too certain I'd come crawling back, to notice I was already rewriting the story. One evening, after a marathon session sorting through our assets, Sheila leaned back in her chair. "You know, Madison," she said, "if you want to be strategic, you don't need to fight over every penny. Sometimes letting someone have what they think they want is the best revenge." That stuck with me. I went home, poured myself a glass of cheap wine, and stared out at the city lights. For the first time, I stopped thinking like a victim and started thinking like a strategist. What did Olivia actually want? She'd always been fascinated by the life Derek and I built together. The fancy condo, the investments, the social circle, the little luxuries. I remembered all the times she'd admired our furniture, the new car, the kitchen gadgets Derek loved. She'd sigh, "One day I'll have this kind of life." And Derek? He thrived on admiration, on being the guy with it all. They deserved each other. They deserved everything, every headache, every obligation, every bit of responsibility that came with the glittering facade they both coveted. So I started transferring joint accounts. I moved my money, my savings, the inheritance from my grandmother, my separate investment account, into a trust with only my name on it. Sheila helped me structure the paperwork so cleanly it was almost art. The law, she said, rewards preparation. Derek, meanwhile, was too busy moving into a short-term rental just until things calmed down. He never suspected what I was doing. But I didn't stop there. I began shifting household bills, mortgage payments, insurance policies, utilities, all to Derek's name. The fancy car, I had it refinanced into his name. The country club membership Olivia had always envied, also Derek. The vacation property in Lake Geneva we'd bought for weekend getaways, I signed it over to him with a smile. I kept up appearances in public, even as my private life unraveled. I went to a friend's baby shower, brought a perfect gift, smiled for the photos. I ran into Olivia at the grocery store. She looked pale and anxious, a ghost of her former self. She tried to make small talk, but I kept my answers short and polite. Her eyes darted to the ring still on my finger, and I saw her flinch. That night, Derek called for the first time in days. "Madison, can we please talk? I know you're angry, but this is all a misunderstanding. Olivia, she's confused, I'm confused. Can we meet?" His voice sounded so small, so lost. I almost laughed. Instead, I said, "You want Olivia, Derek, you got her. And everything that comes with her." He hesitated. "What does that mean?" I hung up. The next day, I made an appointment with my financial advisor. "I want to liquidate anything that's just in my name," I said, keeping my tone casual. "The rest, I'm transferring to Derek and Olivia. I don't care if it's worth a fortune, I just want it gone." He looked at me like I'd lost my mind. "Are you sure, Madison? Most people." "I'm not most people." He nodded, took notes, and got to work. I took a sick day and spent the afternoon clearing out the condo. I packed up my things, the artwork my dad gave me, the books I loved, the sweaters I wore on cold winter nights. I left the fancy appliances, the jewelry Derek bought for anniversaries, even the espresso machine Olivia once begged me to teach her to use. I left notes. "Enjoy," taped to each item. I changed my mailing address to a small apartment I'd leased across town. It was cozy, old, the opposite of my former life. But it was mine. I bought second-hand furniture, painted the walls myself, and adopted a second rescue dog, a little terrier named Lucky. My life was simpler, but I slept better than I had in years. The final piece of my plan was paperwork. Sheila drew up documents transferring all jointly owned assets, except my own protected savings, directly to Derek and, by legal quirk, Olivia too. It was technically a gift. No court battle, no ugly public scenes, just a clean, efficient exit. A week later, Olivia texted me late at night. "Derek and I are moving in together. Is it true you signed everything over to him? Why are you doing this?" I replied, for the first time since the affair, "You wanted my life so badly, now you have it, good luck." I set my phone down and smiled for the first time in weeks. It wasn't revenge, not exactly. It was liberation. But as I would soon learn, giving Olivia everything she thought she wanted was the cruelest twist of all. When the last document was signed and the keys to my former life handed over, I thought I'd feel empty. Instead, I felt an unexpected surge of lightness, as if a weight had been lifted from my chest. It wasn't happiness, more like relief. For the first time in years, everything I had was truly mine, and everything I'd lost was no longer my burden to carry. Derek and Olivia moved into the condo together just 2 days after the transfer. Mutual friends who lived in the building told me the move-in was a disaster. The fancy movers Derek hired argued over which boxes belonged to whom, and Olivia burst into tears when the espresso machine didn't work properly. Derek tried to charm the building staff, but everyone already knew what had happened. In our tight-knit community, secrets travel fast, especially juicy ones. The first weeks were a spectacle. Olivia posted a photo of the lake view to her Instagram stories, hashtagging it Blessed New Beginnings. Derek commented with heart emojis. It was so over the top, so performative, I almost pitied them. But my pity faded quickly as I started getting DMs from old friends, colleagues, even Derek's distant relatives. Everyone wanted to know if the rumors were true. Had I really given up everything? Had Derek really left me for my best friend? Was Olivia pregnant? She wasn't, as far as I knew, but that didn't stop the speculation. I watched from the sidelines, feeling oddly invisible. I changed my social media handles, set everything to private, and started quietly documenting my new life. There was something delicious about my anonymity, going to work, coming home, taking the dogs to the park, eating ramen on my porch at midnight. I made friends with the barista at the corner coffee shop, who had no idea about my past or the drama I'd left behind. Meanwhile, Derek and Olivia began to struggle. Their social circle, once wide and welcoming, started shrinking. Derek's friends dropped him, uncomfortable with his choices. Olivia's fashion contacts didn't invite her to events anymore. Apparently, being the other woman was not on brand. Derek started getting calls from the bank. Mortgage payments were late, the HOA fees had doubled, and some of the investments I'd left him were riskier than he realized. He called me twice, asking for advice on managing the accounts. I didn't answer. My old boss called me in for lunch one afternoon. Over salads, she leaned in, eyes sparkling. "You know, Madison, word is you came out of all this cleaner than anyone expected. I could use someone like you on our new digital campaign. We're expanding, think you'd be interested." I smiled, savoring the feeling of being wanted for my talent, not for my story. "Let's talk." I poured my energy into work, volunteering for extra projects and mentoring younger staff. My career took off in ways I hadn't expected, speaking at conferences, collaborating on a podcast, even writing guest articles about women in leadership. My name became associated with resilience and reinvention, not scandal. Olivia, on the other hand, started posting vague, emotional captions. "Starting over is harder than it looks. Not all that glitters is gold," interspersed with staged couple photos with Derek. My friends sent me screenshots. Sometimes I laughed. Sometimes, late at night, I wondered if she regretted everything. The first real sign that their fortune was actually a curse came when the IRS sent Derek a notice about unpaid taxes. He hadn't realized that some of the properties I'd signed over had outstanding liens. The country club billed him for months of unpaid dues. The vacation house flooded after a pipe burst, and Derek had let the insurance lapse. The vintage car broke down and needed thousands in repairs. All the things that had once seemed glamorous and enviable were now anchors, dragging them down. I received a panicked email from Olivia, subject line, "Help!" She begged me to meet for coffee, just as friends. I ignored it. But then something in me shifted. I remembered all the times I'd shared my successes online, every milestone, every happy moment, every promotion. What if I shared this story too, not as revenge, but as a cautionary tale? I started a private blog, anonymous at first, writing about betrayal, resilience, and how to reclaim your life after a devastating loss. My posts resonated. Readers messaged me, sharing their own stories of heartbreak and revenge, of finding freedom in letting go. I felt seen again, not as the woman who lost everything, but as the woman who chose herself. It didn't take long for people to put two and two together. My story, disguised just enough to protect the guilty, started to circulate online. Comments poured in, some angry at Derek and Olivia, others inspired by my choice. It was cathartic, seeing my pain transformed into something empowering. Then one morning, I woke up to a viral hashtag, "She gave it all." People were debating, was I crazy, brave, or both? The story spread to TikTok, Reddit, women's Facebook groups. The tide of public opinion shifted. Suddenly, Derek and Olivia were couple goals, they were a warning. The blog opened doors for me. I was invited on podcasts, asked to give interviews. A publisher even reached out, asking if I'd write a memoir. Meanwhile, Derek's business started to crumble. Without my input, clients drifted away. Olivia struggled to pay for the things she'd always admired. I watched, quietly, as the life they'd stolen from me became a gilded cage, heavy, expensive, and impossible to escape. And as for me, I was just getting started. My new identity as an anonymous storyteller took on a life of its own. It was wild. One week I was just Madison Bell, marketing exec, dog mom, betrayed wife. The next, I was the subject of think pieces, duetted on TikTok and quoted on advice columns. People who'd never met me sent long emails pouring out their own secrets, pain, and triumphs. The blog, at first just a place to vent, became a movement for women and a few men who'd been burned by betrayal and needed to see that you could rise from the ashes with your dignity and sense of humor intact. Meanwhile, Derek and Olivia were starting to crack. I'd heard through mutual friends that money was tight. Derek was on the hook for thousands in unpaid bills, taxes, and association fees. The country club eventually revoked his membership, and Olivia's influencer attempts bombed spectacularly. Her posts now drew more hate than envy. It was subtle at first, but then I began to notice snide comments and inside jokes on their pages. How's the golden cage? Karma looks good on you, queen. Did you really think you could outsmart Madison? My favorite? A meme that went viral, Olivia's blessed condo selfie with the caption, "When you win the jackpot, but it's all Monopoly money." At first, I felt a little guilty. Was I feeding the fire? Was my story, told in veiled terms, just another kind of public shamming? But then I remembered the months I'd spent feeling like I was suffocating, the way Derek and Olivia had twisted the knife and called it love. I remembered how Olivia had tried to apologize only when things got hard, not when it actually mattered. And Derek? He was too busy playing the victim to ever actually apologize. The public response took on a momentum I couldn't control. People debated in comments and threads. Was I too harsh? Was I too soft? Was I a feminist hero or a bitter ex-wife? And then something amazing happened. Other women started tagging me in their own stories of reinvention, resilience, and, yes, revenge. I got invited to speak on a women's empowerment podcast. The host, Simone, had a reputation for asking tough, no-nonsense questions. She didn't hold back. "Madison," she said, "why didn't you fight tooth and nail for what was yours? Most people would have dragged them to court, tried to ruin their lives. Why just hand it all over?" I paused, thinking. Because, Simone, what's the point in fighting for things that were never really mine to begin with? I realized the life I wanted, the home, the love, the respect couldn't be built on lies. I let them keep the wreckage. I took my piece and started over. The podcast went viral. Clips of my interview were stitched with advice videos and reaction shots. I started getting offers, brand deals, speaking gigs, even an agent interested in helping me pitch a book. Meanwhile, Derek called again. He left a voicemail that was so pathetic, so full of self-pity, I almost deleted it without listening. "Madison, I can't believe what you've done. You ruined me. Olivia is miserable. I need you to fix this. Please just talk to me." I deleted it. I didn't need to hear another word. A few days later, Olivia emailed me. Her subject line was simply, "Sorry." In her message, she wrote, "I never thought it would end up like this. I wanted Derek, yes, but I never wanted the mess. The bills, the calls, the hate, none of it feels real. You were always the strong one. I see that now. I just wish we could go back." For the first time, I didn't feel anger. I didn't even feel pity. I felt nothing. Olivia and Derek had made their choices, just as I'd made mine. As my blog and social channels grew, I started organizing online meetups for women who needed community, a space to talk about what they'd been through, how they rebuilt, and what real freedom looked like. I interviewed divorce lawyers, therapists, finance experts, and survivors of messy breakups. It was messy, loud, and beautiful. Women called in from all over the country, sharing their pain, their jokes, and their battle scars. Some days I missed my old life. The security, the comfort, even the routine. But every time I thought about going back, I remembered the lies, the cold silences, the way Derek and Olivia looked at each other when they thought I wasn't watching. Now I was watched by thousands. But this time, it was for who I really was, not the perfect wife, not the betrayed victim, but a woman who turned her pain into power and her heartbreak into a megaphone for truth. Little did I know, the most dramatic twist was still to come. Months slipped by, seasons changed, and my story became less about betrayal and more about transformation. The She Gave It All hashtag still trended from time to time, but my life moved forward. I started dating awkward, slow, but surprisingly fun. I traveled solo for the first time, hiking in Oregon, sipping lattes in Portland, dancing at a friend's wedding in Denver. My 2 dogs, Peanut and Lucky, became my shadows and companions on this new adventure. And yet the past found ways to resurface. It was Olivia who initiated the final confrontation, messaging me after a friend's social media post about my latest podcast appearance. "You win, Madison. I can't do this anymore. Derek's business is gone. I'm selling the condo. Can we talk? Just once, please?" For reasons I still can't quite explain, curiosity, closure, or maybe kindness, I agreed. We met at a small cafe downtown. Olivia looked different. Older, thinner, her hair pulled into a tight bun, no makeup. She played with her coffee cup for a long moment before speaking. "I thought I wanted your life. I thought I wanted him, but I never realized what that meant. It wasn't the money or the view, it was you. The way people respected you. The way you made things look effortless." I took a deep breath, searching for anger or triumph, but I just felt tired. "You didn't just take my husband, Olivia. You took my best friend, and you lost yourself in the process." She nodded, eyes filling with tears. "I'm sorry, I mean it. If I could go back, I would do everything differently." It was tempting to let her stew in her regret, but I'd moved beyond bitterness. "I hope you find peace, Olivia. I really do. But it won't come from what you take. It'll come from what you build for yourself." We parted without a hug, but with an understanding. Our friendship was dead, but we were finally free of the weight of pretending. Derek's downward spiral became public when he filed for bankruptcy. The story spread quickly, how the golden couple lost it all, how karma finally caught up. I received messages from people I barely knew, congratulating me for escaping. But the truth was, I didn't escape. I chose to walk away, even when it felt impossible. My memoir hit the shelves that winter. Let Her Have It All: How Losing Everything Set Me Free, climbed bestseller lists, and inspired dozens of articles. I started speaking on bigger stages, sharing my story not as a cautionary tale, but as proof that you can turn heartbreak into the beginning of your real life. One day, while walking Lucky and Peanut in the park, a woman stopped me. She was about my age, with kind eyes and a confident air. "Are you Madison? I just wanted to say, your story gave me the courage to leave my own Derek. I'm happier now, thank you." That, more than all the clicks or viral hashtags, made it all worth it. Looking back now, I see everything with new eyes. I see the ways we all try to hold on to things that aren't meant for us, relationships, homes, identities we outgrow. I see how easy it is to let anger harden you, how brave it is to let go, even when everyone tells you to fight. I learned that letting go isn't weakness, it's the ultimate power. Some lessons cost you everything you once thought was secure, but sometimes losing what you thought you needed is the only way to find out who you really are. Love needs trust. I only learned that when I lost it. And as for Derek and Olivia, I wish them well, truly. I hope they build something honest, even if it's not with each other. Because I didn't just give away my fortune, I gave away the weight that kept me from living. And that was the greatest gift of all. Subscribe to my Mia's Stories YouTube channel for raw, emotional stories and authentic insights that encourage healing, growth, and understanding. Don't forget to be part of a supportive space where stories inspire and lessons resonate. What do you think about this story? Let us know in the comments. Your opinion truly matters to us, and we're here for you.